Welcome back to the Critical Moves podcast. I'm Al, and today I'm joined by Tim. All right, Tim?
Hey, how you doing, everyone? Quite all right, and yourself?
Yeah, hanging in there. And it's just the two of us, mate. I mean, what's happened there?
Just you and me. And then there were two.
Today, we're going to be talking about Anno 117, which is the latest in a long and storied series of Anno games. Released, a couple of weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. I actually missed the date by 10 days. I thought it was 10 days later, and I missed out on 10 days of not playing this game.
You see, I wasn't going to mention that. I wasn't, but I do remember when we were planning on doing this episode, and you were like, I want to do the Anno episode, but it's not releasing yet." And it's like it released last week.
Embarrassing.
These things happen. These things happen. Well, you are kind of the resident Anno expert, aren't you?
I've played since the very first installment, Anno 1602, and I've been playing every game so far, and I think the latest installment, Anno 1800, was an absolute masterpiece of a game.
Mm-hmm. So the purpose of tonight then, or this episode, is to look at 117 to see what it brings to the series, whether the Roman setting actually is anything more than just window dressing, whether it actually lends anything to the gameplay, and really to gather your thoughts, because I have played 117. I picked it up via Ubisoft because it was cheaper that way than Steam, but it didn't quite gel with me, which I was a bit disappointed with because I was really looking forward to it. With that in mind, let's start with the the big question: is it any good?
Define good.
Okay. you have to make these things difficult, man.
I have a lot of opinions on the game.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So you just mentioned that 1800 was a masterpiece.
Mhm.
Does 117 bring anything to the table that would make you move your preferred Anno game from 1800 to 117?
There's absolutely, definitely a number of things that is improved in a good way in 117. I think there's some really nice features. There's some cool ideas. I like the theme a lot. The graphics are great. Diagonal roads, I mean, we made fun of it. They're a bit janky at the moment, but it is a good feature. There's a lot of options, like choices. You're given a lot of choices in which direction you're going with, whereas Anno 1800 was quite railroaded. This is more like, oh, you can go with A or B, and this happens quite often, which gives you flavor and gives you replayability.
I think one of the first choices is Latium or Albion, isn't it? There's two different ways that you can, or two different settings for this. What's the differences between them? Is there any concrete differences? Does it actually make any difference or not?
In both cases, you can play as both in the end anyway, so it's simply your starting position. It doesn't change anything structurally, but the different regions play differently. Not massively, but there are significant differences. And ultimately, it's where do you start? And in the long run, it doesn't make that big of an impact, but it is an interesting choice.
So Albion's, from what I've seen, it's much more rugged terrain. It's, I guess, like a harder starting position.
It is, and you have different gameplay mechanics, like the marches. Instead of the river slots, you have different needs, different aspects. The pirates, so to speak, are more aggressive, and they will invade your island more, and so on. And depending on the difficulty setting, of course. The aesthetic, I think, is the biggest difference. Do you want to play with like Celtic woods land creatures, or do you want to have like the structure of Rome kind of different? So the island sizes are also different. In Latium, the islands tend to be bigger, so you can build like a huge sprawl of a city.
So if you were looking really at like a sandbox experience and just to like me, I'm a very simple man, as you probably know after all these months working together. Um, when I played Anno, I jumped straight to the campaign because I thought the campaign is probably going to be the way to learn how to play this game, because you kind of get pointers on where to go and what to do. And you're right, it looks gorgeous. It absolutely looks gorgeous.
Mhm.
I mean, I want to come back to the diagonal roads thing because that's a particular talking point. But it just looked fabulous, just playing it. And I think if you're into just sandboxing and building this sprawling city, this beautiful city with amazing road layouts and a functioning economy, then really Latium is probably going to be the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's kind of ironic that the diagonal roads come in the version where it's about Rome, because I feel like that's one of the games where it's most uh, okay to have very square building blocks. Feels like very typical Roman. But no, it looks gorgeous, and I don't know if you saw. There's even a Hall of Fame where after you've unlocked some achievements, you can unlock new skins for your building. So you can have, for example, in the Celtic buildings, you can have like moss-covered buildings that look extra cute and so on. Like that's
Hmm.
it's kind of cool. And if that's what you care about, I think there's amazing features.
But does the Rome setting make much difference to the actual gameplay itself?
You vie for different types of resources, I guess. And then there's an extra tier level to the Romans as well. You can make a lot more money in Latium because you can have a bigger city more easily, whereas in Albion you have to build smaller, so you can't expand as easily. But yeah, no, I mean, the gameplay itself is very, very similar. It's just like a different flavor.
I guess I'm trying to pin you down to an answer here. Does it add anything? Does it add anything meaningful, or is it just the fact that it's a new skin?
It's mostly flavor. And that is something a bit disappointing, I have to say. Something I appreciate about Anno 1800 is that you start in the old world and then you hit a ceiling and then you're like, oh, okay, now I can't advance further unless I go to the new world and get these new resources. So you go out exploring, there's an exploration mission, and you find some exciting new resources in the new world that you're bringing back as the good colonialists that you are. You're bringing back to enrich your old world. That gives you a lot of motivation to go out to the new world. And
Mm.
every time you bring something back, you get rich off of it, or you unlock something new and cool. Eventually, you bring oil back, or you bring all sorts of really exciting stuff. And yeah, that gives you a lot of motivation to go out and do that. Whereas here, not so much. I mean, there are some things that you can bring back from Albion back to Latium. It's not that exciting. It's not, oh, it is a huge money maker, or you always have an alternative option to not do that, because every time you're given two choices of which building chain you're gonna make. And yeah, most of the time you can just completely ignore that, and that makes you think of like, well, why would I go and do that? And that brings me back to one of the DLCs in Anno 1800 was about the land of the lion or something like that, an Africa centered DLC. And there too, like, you had a whole continent. It was kind of cool, but it looked nice, looked really beautiful, but you didn't have any reason to go there, so you just didn't. And yeah, I mean, same here, I guess.
It almost seems as if it's less of a game than 1800 was. And I appreciate we've not seen DLCs yet, and we may get DLCs, and we may get the opportunity to, bring in Carthage or the Greeks or whatever. So there is the scope to expand beyond what we have in the base game. But it sounds like it's less of a game than what I know. We're talking only about 1800, and of course there was 1702 and 1603, or 1602, wasn't it? In 1701, that's right. Because always up to 9, don't they? So I appreciate we're talking about 1800 at the moment. But from what you're explaining, it sounds like it's less of a game than what they did previously, and that must be disappointing because I know how much you were looking forward to this.
I would say my general sentiment is disappointment indeed. It does feel like less of a game, and I understand DLC might help, but I don't know how much it will. I think there are some fundamentals that they would need to adjust. I feel like they tried to add a lot of other stuff, and I appreciate the sentiment that they're playing with something like a tech tree and knowledge, and I think, okay, that can be interesting. Now, something I praised Anno 1800 for on this podcast before is that everything was on the map. You didn't have like these pop-up screens like in Stellaris or something where every time your senses are assaulted by like a complete different screen that you have to readjust and like, oh yeah, right, and you have to go through all the menus and search through things. Everything on 1800 is on the map. You see it right in front of you, and maybe sometimes you click on a building to open a little bit the inventory, but that's about it. And then what they did here was bring back those pop-up menus with the religion screen, with the research screen, and then it's kind of annoying. You're building out your city, you're moving around, and then you've got a pop-up that says, oh, your knowledge is up again, and then you have to go into a menu and go to the tech tree, and you're distracted from what you're wanting to do, which is build your city. So I like the idea of this added complexity, but not only did I find that jarring and annoying, the upgrades were also a little bit meh. Like I searched around for upgrades that I wanted, and not much appealed to me anyway. So I wasn't even excited about the upgrades, the knowledge upgrades. And same thing with religion. Like religion is like this huge micromanagement because you need to change for every island that you have. You need to change around which religion you're gonna follow, and then you're gonna do I get at this 4,000 limit or not? Maybe I should change this island to that. Oh, but that island produces this good, so I want to change to that religion because it gets a plus 10% bonus and so on. And I feel like I'm managing these things that are not particularly fun for bonuses that are quite medium in the end.
So the effort and the reward are off kilter. That there's not enough reward for the amount of effort that you need to put in.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that I noticed, which as a relatively new player to Anno, and I don't think that 117 is a good place to start if you're new to the Anno series. But one thing that I noticed was the bonuses which came from putting buildings either adjacent or near to each other. Was that a good inclusion, or because you're almost forcing people to design cities in a certain way rather than giving them free reign? So I think there was one thing I'm sure where I built one particular building, may have been a sheep farm or something like that, and because it wasn't close enough to the market, it just didn't work.
Yeah, but that's always been the case. You always have to build it close enough to the market. Any production building. What is interesting though, they did make a change here. They added a lot of possible bonuses that you can stack on top of your houses, such as knowledge, belief, happiness, the fire safety, and so on. And something that they did change was that some production buildings, or even most production buildings, like a bakery or something, has a positive impact on nearby houses. Now, before this game, you would build your whole industry in a corner completely away, and all your bakeries, all your
Mm.
breweries or whatever would be in like a little corner clumped up, and then you build your city on another side, and that would be, best separated because you don't want your city cluttered with these buildings, these production buildings. But now, by making your bakery give, for example, extra income to the houses next to it, you want to leave some spots in your city to plop down these bakeries within. And I think that's kind of cute. It annoyed me at first because, like, oh shit, I built my whole city and now I have to rearrange everything because I have to include this. So like the first try out, I was like, I have to change how I think about building my city.
Mm.
But then
Yeah.
again, I thought that was not so bad, actually.
Yeah, you had to readjust your thought processes because I guess because you were so used to how things
Yeah.
worked with the previous games, and I guess that's see, I love city builders, and that's what kind of drew me to trying Anno for that and the way that you've spoke about it in the past, and I guess if you're playing a city builder, you're looking at zones. Your commercial zone, your industrial zone,
Hmm.
your residential zone, and I guess it must be something where if you're playing a city builder, having played previous ones. So when I say a city builder, I mean Anno. You kind of applying the same logic. Well, I will have a zone where I'll put all of my farms and all of my production
Hmm.
buildings, and then I'll have a zone where I'll put all of my um, residential, all of my houses, with maybe something religious because it makes sense for them to have a church with their houses or whatever. Um, so you would have like a natural inclination to separate the different types of buildings, but it sounds like this is kind of you still can, but this is saying if you don't, it can be beneficial.
Yeah, well, specifically, and that does leave you some choices, which I think is interesting. Where, oh, do I want to focus on religion? Do I want to focus on profitability? Do I want to focus on knowledge, which is research? So you can be like, oh, you know what? I need more of this. So I'm going to put more of this building that adds more income to the houses. I'm going to plop some more down. And every time you want to level up a tier, you can also choose between different types of buildings that will give you different kinds of benefit. So you have more choice, which it really seems like they were chasing this to give choices to players, and that idea is good. It's a good idea. I like it. Could be better. Could be executed better. But it's a nice direction. It's an interesting direction.
And there's also this thing in Anno 117, which is you can either choose to be loyal to, I guess, to the emperor, or you can rebel. Is that how does that mechanic play out in reality?
Yeah, so the emperor, the first choice you can have is like, oh, do I say something nice about him, or do I insult him? Which sets you on a path already from the beginning. And then, yeah, it's about missions or tasks it gives you. Yeah, I played it quite a bit. I restarted a few times to cover the different possibilities, but I haven't gotten to the absolute end game yet. That's where warfare comes into play. I think there's a few interesting elements there with customizing ships. Okay, customization, great. I like it. Land armies, a return to land armies, because it used to be a thing a long time ago. I think it's good to explore some new things for them, like, oh, is this cool or not? But yeah, I don't think the island mechanic makes land armies really interesting, because you have to load your troops, you have to move them around, unload them, and then fight and so on. I think either you stay with the island mechanic, which is, what they've done, and you commit to sea only warfare, or you move away from island mechanics and you use land warfare. But I don't think both should be together.
And there's a lot of micromanagement involved in that, as in you've got to
Yeah.
train your troops build your ships, load your troops onto your ships, sail across, maybe engage in a naval fight on the way, land your troops. I feel exhausted just talking about that because it sounds like there's a lot of steps,
Yeah.
and I guess this is the thing. It's like Anno 117 was sold to me as a city builder experience, and there's always the risk when you start introducing things like land warfare that you move away from that core
Mm,
gameplay loop
mm.
and you become something else. And it's absolutely fine to try and become something else. I don't fall out with that. But if you're going to do it, you've got to do it in a way which is not going to piss off your long time fans who are used to things in a certain way and not do things which are overcomplicated.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I enjoyed so much about Anno 1800 was okay, the building, the advancing tiers and so on. Every tier I moved forward, I had a new exciting thing. Oh, I have this new toy I can play with. This is really fun now. I have like ships that sail much faster against the wind. This is really useful. And then the ships themselves are so useful because I would expand on so many different areas and trade, and I would need to bring back coffee, and that coffee that I would bring back from New World would make it incredibly lucrative, and I would gain a lot from that. So I was really excited about all these things, and I don't find that here so much. Setting up these trade routes and so on, that was really fun for me, but yeah, this aspect of micromanaging your tech tree, your religion, and the ground armies, I find it a lot less exciting, me personally. Yeah.
It's absolutely necessary to use the ground armies if you want to go and conquer your neighbors. Because I assume from what you've been describing there, in 1800 you didn't have to do that. You just won the naval
Mhm,
war, and
mhm,
then I
mhm.
guess there's some mechanics going on in the background which make logical sense. If you then blockade the port, you starve them to submission, and that's how you win. I guess is the what they're trying to simulate with naval warfare. I take it the only way to do it now is to go through the rigmarole of training a land army.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit awkward. Like you would defeat the harbor on the enemy island, and suddenly the entire island would be destroyed, leveled. You wouldn't take the island; it would just be everything on the island destroys, and that can be a
Oh
bit
wow!
jarring. Like, oh wow, what the hell? So them wanting
I
to
didn't
move
want that
away
to
from that.
happen, but everything is fine.
So now, like, you can build a villa in the middle of the island, and then you have to land an army and take the villa from it. So okay, I see the why, but I think an oversimplification that was before actually worked and was okay. Uh, Now, of course, warfare in 1800 was a lot sea based, and maybe the Roman one not as much. But I mean, honestly, I think this didn't work out so well.
I mean, I suppose historically it makes sense because I appreciate that Rome had a navy, and I appreciate there was, naval fights in the Mediterranean or whatever. But I suppose Rome has always been portrayed as a land based uh, superpower. Really, yeah, as it was in the time, it was they went and conquered parts of Britain, and they crossed the Mediterranean, which isn't particularly far in the grand scheme of things, and conquered Egypt and other parts of North Africa. And I suppose in 1800, in the age of sail, when you had, I guess I suppose it comes into like Victoria 3. The Royal Navy was the reason why Britain was so successful, because navy was so
Mhm.
important historically in the 1800s, and probably not as important in 117 in the Roman times. So I can understand why they felt the need to introduce land-based armies into a
Mhm.
Roman game, because I think if you're playing a Roman game and there is warfare, you expect to be able to control legionnaires and archers and cavalry and all of the all of the other kinds of units that would come with Roman warfare.
Yeah, but then I guess I would have liked them to commit to it, and I mean maybe this was too big of a change, but then go to not an island map, but a land-based map with water, sure, but that would have needed a lot new mechanics as well. Like how do you define where you can build, and do you have land trade or not? So that would have complicated things a lot, but that could have given a fresh new experience that isn't so much here. Like this feels like Anno 1800 with some skins and some improvements and some worsenings.
Do you think that it's a case of Ubisoft haven't taken enough risks with this? Could they have taken more risks in terms of you said about having like a land-based uh, campaign or a land-based setting, but then how would they manage what area you could be building and so on and so forth? I mean that doesn't seem like it's a particularly challenging gameplay mechanic to overcome. Could they have done more than just sticking this on islands?
I mean, there's a big cost to it, because they already have a lot of experience with this island-based gameplay mechanic. It's a lot easier. Probably it takes a lot less time for them to make this than it would be for something else. So it's easy for me to say in my home to be like, oh, just redesign your whole game and make it fun still. I think that's what I would need to justify some of the changes that they've gone with. And as it is now, like this game, Anno 117, as it is in this moment, I'd rather play Anno 1800. Maybe that will change with the DLCs, and I get that, but yeah, it's not there for me.
But we're talking about one of the largest video game developers and publishers in the world. So, I appreciate there's risks to changing from an island structure, but surely they could afford to expand Anno beyond, especially when you're talking about a Roman setting. It seems like they've kind of done this setting a bit of a disservice by sticking it on islands.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think they tried some risks, with some changes like the tech tree, like the religion, like the building placements mattering differently. But I think they were just went the wrong risks in the wrong direction, and not a good enough vision for, or not enough play testing for what is fun or not fun. I don't know.
So talking about fun, fun and not fun, a huge thing, a huge fanfare, I guess, has been made about this diagonal roads thing, and and you mentioned at the start, it's Rome was probably the setting where you wouldn't really need them, where the grid structure kind of made sense for Roman infrastructure and the way that they laid out their cities. Does diagonal roads, because it seems like such a simple thing to do, does diagonal roads add anything of any real value to the game? Or do you know what I mean? It's just incredible to me that this is such a high profile release, and one of the biggest things they could say that you can do in Anno 117, you couldn't do anything else, was you can now make roads diagonal, and I'm just like, my mind is just kind of boggles that they've made such a big deal about this.
I think the roads themselves being diagonal is not the difficulty, but like all the buildings adjusting to that. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I was excited about it, genuinely so, I think they didn't even do that good of a job of it. Because while you can build diagonally and you have buildings that adjust to the diagonal road, so the buildings, instead of having two directions, they now have four directions in which they can be built, or twice that for both. I'm building my city. I'm like, oh, now I'm gonna make it look nice. There's gonna be some roads that are a little bit, more interesting to look at, especially in the Celtic environments. There they don't build square roads so much, historically speaking. So that's maybe gonna be a bit more interesting. But then you're left with so many triangular spaces that you can't fill at all. And it becomes really annoying really fast. And a lot of, you're wasting a lot of space because you want it to look pretty. And then I end up wanting to build diagonally, but resenting it because I'm losing space and efficiency doing so.
Because all the buildings are squares and rectangles, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like it just seems it's like what you could why it's you can now build diagonal roads, but there's nothing to put in. There's nothing to put on them.
Well, you can build on the diagonal roads, but once the diagonal road crosses a non-diagonal road, there becomes a triangle of unused space, which is, yeah, the annoyance.
That's what I mean. As in, you build a diagonal road, and of course you can build buildings along that particular road, but they are square. So the only thing you can do is build another diagonal road
Yeah,
parallel to that one,
yeah.
in which case they're no longer diagonal roads; they are now just the shape of your city.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like if you
Yeah.
if you build your city entirely from diagonal roads, they're no longer diagonal roads; they're now vertical and horizontal.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and it's an issue, and I mean other games have fixed it. Like I'm thinking of Manor Lords, where you have like completely custom roads that like curve all the way, and then your buildings kind of adapts fully to that road. I mean, I guess City Skyline has that a little bit as well, but it's a little bit janky as well, and it's more you don't make buildings so much, you make areas of buildings, I guess.
It just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity to me. That if you are going to, well, it it's weird because it's a case of I feel like they made such a big deal of these
Mhm.
diagonal
Mhm.
roads. I would have expected me to be able to use them with, say, for example, as you say, a triangular building, for example. So if you had houses and then you had triangular houses as well, so
Yeah,
they would
yeah,
fit into triangular
yeah,
spaces.
yeah.
Um, it just seems a bit of a missed opportunity for them to introduce this as this great fanfare of something really simple, and then not allow you to use it properly.
Or, you can do it where you make an area like in City Skylines, and per square that you're using, that's like more citizens that can move in. So, like, the bigger the area, the bigger it is. But yeah, as it is now, it's quite janky. And not only that, but I find myself often fighting with the UI where I'm trying to place something on a diagonal road or a regular road, and the building is stuck in building it like 45 degrees off of what I'm trying to build on, and I have to move it
Mhm.
around. It's not working. I have to cancel, retry to build it. And I'm like fighting with the UI, like trying to make something, and that's never a good thing.
The only place in Anno 117 I could think where you could actually use a diagonal road and make it look interesting would be with your farms, because of course with
Yeah.
you place
Yeah.
your farm building and then of course you place your growable area almost as like single cells, don't you? So you could maybe build
Mm.
triangular fields for your
Yeah.
farms, but that's a really small use
Yeah.
case for this particular
Yeah.
amazing feature. Honestly, I still can't get my head around the fact that they've made such a big. It's even in their marketing materials
Yeah.
now with diagonal roads. It's like what? Why is that such a big deal? And if you're going to make it a big deal, let me use them effectively.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's such a missed opportunity.
There's some nice quality of life improvements with the UI. For example, okay, you've built a fire station. Now you want to build a second fire station. Before you're building it and you're hovering around, you see exactly which buildings are covered by the previous fire station and which buildings will be added if you build your fire station with little arrows on top of the building. So that makes it much smoother to build these sort of things. Same thing with almost every other building, especially the ones that add things to your houses, like
Mhm.
added income to your houses, and you're like, oh, you can like decide very well and easily where to place it based off of that. That's really nice. when you delete roads, you get offered to build like to destroy the whole strip of the road rather than having to click one by one, or you can click and drag as well. Like there's a few quality of life improvements that I would like to bring to Anno 1800s to then play Anno 1800s.
One of the things that's always been kind of sold as a feature of the Anno games, and not necessarily a good one, is the fact that you could often be in a situation where you have to redesign your entire city. Like, you know, when you move up a level or whatever, so you're destroying vast areas and you know, rebuilding it somewhere else, or changing districts or whatever. Is that Has that improved that process, or is it still destroy buildings one by one and
No, no,
rebuild
no.
them one by one?
It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier. You can like click and drag. Also, when your buildings die from a fire or something like that, they will automatically rebuild after some time. You can do it faster by clicking it yourself, but yeah, there's more improvements there. A few things. You can, for example, upgrade buildings, and if you press U, you can, you know, do the upgrades. You have the upgrade tool, and then that's useful, but it doesn't show you that you have to press U to press it, so it doesn't guide you that much. There's no like tooltip that says the hotkey U to do it. So that's something very minor, but something I would advise UI designers to do.
Maybe they'll fix that in the first patch. The Steam reviews for Anno 117 are currently showing as mixed.
Yeah, for a good reason.
I was going to say, is that fair?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I find myself struggling to motivate to keep playing. When I play the game, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna expand a bit here. I'm gonna make that. Okay, I'll do this. I'll go up one more level over here. I'll go get that resource, and so I'm not excited to keep going. I'm a bit, you know.
It almost sounds like it's work rather than fun. Whereas I suppose with Anno 1800, it's probably just a case of I've got to go to bed, but I'm just going to do this, and then before you know it, it's another 2 hours. I'm just going to okay, I'm tired now. I've got to be up for work. I'm just going to do this one last thing, and oh shit, now I've got to get ready for work, and I haven't been to bed yet. Whereas this sounds more like it's a case of you are forcing yourself to continue to play, and that's a sad state of affairs for a series like this.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious for the DLC. I don't know if they will purely add things or if they will also rework some things, change some things. I really hope that they gather the feedback and make some important changes. I think the next province that they're going to add, so the next region, is going to be Egypt, which does sound interesting. There's a lot of monument building in Egypt, and I think that's something they want to focus to in general, is like building these big monuments like the Colosseum here, and I think later they're going to build the chariot racing building as well and stuff like that. And okay, that's nice, but yeah, I'm really hoping for some much needed desire for more, like, oh, now I'm gonna trade with Egypt so that I can gather this stuff that was gonna help me a lot with this or this or this, you know.
Well, before we go, because I'm conscious that time is running away with us, two things. The first one, what would you like to see them change if you could have control of Ubisoft for the day, and they gave you carte blanche to change something in Anno 117? What would you change? And secondly, what would you like to see added?
I guess I would like more reasons for solid trade and diplomacy. So at the moment, I can set in my warehouse, oh, this resource, I'm missing this resource. Please buy more of this resource. And I do this in my own warehouse, in my own island. And then there's like regular traders that pass by and they sell this to me. And now I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to keep always perpetually getting this resource. And so I can keep doing that for everything that I don't have on my island as a fertility or so on, or I can't mine it on my island. So I just do that. And then now that I have that, I completely lose interest in exploring. I lose interest in settling on other islands. I lose interest in diplomacy with the other players so that I can get them to sell me some of their resources, or setting up trades routes between me and other islands or other players or whatever. And so I just do this one little thing, which I mean feels good in the moment, but then long term, I'm like, yeah, okay, but I'm losing out on all this trading and like protecting my trade routes and diplomacy and everything like that. So
It's giving you no reason to do it, is it?
yeah, exactly. So give me a reason to do that, I guess. Yeah. But tell me a bit about you, Al. Like, what did you think of the game? What was your first impression as a newcomer? Like, how did it feel playing the game?
It's kind of not what I expected. I expected a Roman city builder, and I expected the freedom that I had with playing other city builders to be able to design a city. And I think that I just wanted to make something pretty, you know,
Mm.
and and that wasn't there. And I was like, oh, I can build a diagonal road. Uh, um, and it was like that was pointless. I'm just going to go back to grids and just build lots of houses. And I think it's something that you mentioned in another episode was I think it was you mentioned in the previous episode about the houses where your income comes from. So I just started by just building grids of houses, and I was like, well, this is really all I need to do, just build grids of houses. I mean, from what you
Yeah.
described there, as long as you've got a warehouse or a trader, as long as I've got enough income, I don't actually need to do anything else really. It's a bit of a cheesy way of playing the game, isn't it? It's just build all your houses, get all your money, and then just buy everything that you need.
Well, the game is still German, right? So it's a city builder, but it's about efficiency.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not a very efficient person, so but it is okay. Um, no, I planned to play it. It's and I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but I said it's very rare that I buy new games. It's very, very rare that I will buy something in the first month of release, let alone on release. I think I bought Anno 117 a couple of days after it was released. I saw, and it's not a strategy game, but I saw Doom the Dark Ages went on sale, and I was always wanting to try Doom the Dark Ages because I love Doom and Quake and all of those old school shooters. I was like, oh, Doom, it's 50% off is on the Black Friday sale. So, but it's still 35 quid. And I was like, I'm not paying that for a game because I think that we've just been spoiled by prices, and I think I'll just put off by buying expensive games. But Anno 117, and I intended to play it. I fully intended to play it, and I fully intended to get stuck in and get drawn in. But and I love the Roman setting. I mean, Rome Total War is one of my absolute favorite games. I love the time period. I love the setting. I love city builders. So everything about it to me was like this should be like a really appealing game for me. But after playing it for a little bit, I just couldn't bring myself to get back into it and actually devote the time necessary to building that efficiency. I just couldn't bring myself to, and maybe I still will. Maybe I still will over Christmas or whatever. Maybe I still will. I don't know. It seems a bit wasteful to pay full price for a game and then not play it as much as I possibly can. So yes, I will. I'll try it again. Everything it's strange, is it? Because everything about it should appeal to me, and yet it doesn't. And I don't understand why.
I'd be curious if you like the previous Anno games or not, because they're still very much similar games, massively so. I feel like 117 put on too many bells and whistles and is distracting you too much from the main thing that is enjoyable to do.
That's always the risk with this kind of game. When you have an established series like Anna, with like Europa Universalis as well, And with Total War, so anything where you've got this legacy of great games, when they release the next one, it's almost a case of, and I do feel sorry for game developers sometimes, even Ubisoft. And I hate to say that, but it's almost like a case of they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They either iterate and add, or they iterate and get accused of adding bells and whistles, or they don't and get accused of not doing enough to differentiate the new game from the previous games. And people say, well, why not just add a skin? I think the biggest criticism for a game is when they say it's just the old game with a skin on the top of it. Why have they bothered? So what do you do? And maybe that's why these reviews are mixed, because maybe it sounds like they've kind of tried to iterate and tried to make things better, but by doing so, they've pissed off a certain group of players who's like, well, I actually enjoyed the old ones, and then what they have done to improve it hasn't actually hit the mark. So maybe that mixed review is accurate.
Yeah, I mean that's when talent and vision comes in, right? You need to have a vision that will bring it in a direction that will be fun to play and enjoyable, and it's a whole art to know which direction to go in, and then a whole art also to play test it and to see which direction makes sense as early as possible, and not like halfway through the development be like, oh, we're adding this feature, but actually it's not really fun to play. Like, you have to find that as early as possible. And it's difficult, and it costs resources, and it's risky, and shareholders, and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, you need vision with these kind of stuff, and you need to be good at it, and it's difficult to do.
Even if you have vision, and even if you and art, and you're right, video games are art, and I think it's taken a long time for society to catch up to the idea that video games can be art. It's not just movies and music and paintings, whatever. Video games are art, and I think art is always divisive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be art, would it? Some people love it, some people hate it. And you're always going to have. This is why you have art critics, because it's a case of you're not going to please all of the people all the time.
Here we are, right?
And I think that in this kind of situation, you have a there's a risk that no matter what you do, you're not going to please everybody because of what we said before.
No, but you could do a better job. You could do a better job. You could make something like, for example, Anno 1800s was a step in a different direction, and at some point they removed land armies. The original version had a land army, and they removed that, and that was a good change. I know quite a few people who played the original one in the 90s, and they could never figure out how to load troops onto ships. So they played the whole game never knowing how to do this like very basic feature, because at that time there was not like a menu section with changing your hotkeys and so on. It was like but yeah, anyway.
But I would bet that there's people who didn't like those changes.
Okay, fair.
Do you know what I mean? Because not everybody,
Yeah.
and I guess that's the beauty of being human. Not everybody likes everything, and you can't please everyone. So you take a risk, you do what you think is right, and you hope that you've done enough. And it seems to me that 117 hasn't done enough.
Maybe it has done enough, but in the wrong direction, which means it's worse.
So they've done too much of the wrong thing and not enough of the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
Can you still get a refund?
I'm not going to get a refund. I'm too stubborn to get a refund. I am going to play Anno 117. I think that it's one of those situations with me where if something doesn't click immediately, I'll just bin it and move on to something else, and that's really not what I need to do with this. I need to give it a fair crack of the whip, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, I promise you. Next time we talk, you can ask me, and I'll probably say no, I didn't. But my plan is to is to play it again. Tim, thanks very much for coming and telling me all about Anno. It's a pleasure, as always. That's the end of the episode. So this has been the Critical Moves podcast. If you go to criticalmovespodcast.com, that's our website, and you'll find all of the ways to get in touch. Come and join our Discord. The link is on the website, or you can go to criticalmovespodcast.com/Discord. Nice, easy way to remember. Come and join, because the next couple of episodes we've got coming up after the next two are going to be based upon the best games of 2025 and what we're looking forward to in 2026. I'm interested in seeing what other people have to say, and we will take on board your suggestions for what is the best strategy games of the year have been, and we'll take on board your suggestions for what games you're looking forward to in 2026. So that's criticalmovespodcast.com. Next week's episode will be an interview with Dr. Ben Angel from Capture Age. He's the narrative lead, worked on the Alexander the Great expansion for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, so you don't want to miss that one. We're very excited to have Ben on the show. Tim, thanks for coming in, trying to sell Anno to me. Unfortunately, I cannot get a refund. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, no, have a great one, everyone.
You too, mate. Again, it's Critical Moves Podcast. Thanks for listening. Take it easy. Goodbye.